Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live in our One Breath Breathwork community, and let's take a breath. Thank you. So as we are waiting for some people to jump into the live tea and talk conversation, I'm just going to mention that we offer accredited breathwork training. For those of you who may not know, we are global. We have a global certification. We are accredited through the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance and can become a breathwork facilitator in 9 months. And we have a 2-year program for becoming a breathwork practitioner, which means that you can become a teacher and a leader within our school. And Sarah is one of these persons who is becoming a teacher and a leader within our school. Sarah is who we are having our tea and talk with today. So I'm Lisa McNatt, founder of One Breath Institute, and this with me is Sarah Forristal. Yeah, so as I was mentioning, Sarah is in her 2nd year of training with us, and that means she's becoming a breathwork practitioner. She is already a mentor. She's just started in the role of being a mentor for some of our students. And a little bit more about Sarah. She's a breathwork facilitator and holistic therapist specializing in massage therapy and reflexology. Creative and curious, Sarah studied art after leaving school and then went on to train in bodywork. Immersing herself in Chinese medicine theory and the practice of yoga, qigong, and meditation opened up a connection to the internal landscape of the body. Through her training with a Daoist master, she learned to become aware of the subtle layers and to see life and nature in a new way. Sarah says, I felt drawn to breathwork, and after hearing the call repeatedly, I first trained in pranayama techniques and then found One Breath Institute. Breathwork training with OBI opened a door of discovery through which I am continuously learning. So Sarah hails from Ireland. She's in Ireland, and her business is called Breath Cycles. She offers in-person workshops, and she has some groups that are online and does in-person and online one-to-one work as well. So we'll get into all of that. But first, Sarah, how does it feel to receive those words about yourself?
It's always interesting to hear, my life story read back to me. It's like, sounds interesting. So, what jumped out to me there when you were reading was that pull to breath work. I remember back in lockdown 2021, I was working as a massage therapist, but I couldn't work anymore. There was a global pandemic and the holistic center that I was working in shut, and we were closed for quite a while. So I had done some breathwork practice in the past, and maybe I'll get into that a little later. But I remember I was painting my sitting room one day, and I was looking for a podcast to listen to, and I thought breath just came to me. So I thought, okay, it'll be interesting to listen to somebody speaking about breath. Even the word breath work was new to me at that stage. And I was painting and listening to people speak about breath. And at that time, I really got back into my own breath practice as well. But I remember that time, that kind of calling, that pull to breath work. I'd wake up in the morning and something would just say, oh, you should research breathwork schools, you should. So I was doing this every day, like looking through breathwork schools, and there aren't many in aren't any in Ireland, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong now, but so researching them in Europe and in the States. And it was like, anytime I had a spare minute, I was like, okay, I just need to research another school, and this just needs to happen. Until I found One Breath Institute, and it was really like something was pushing me to do it. And I found One Breath, and I haven't looked back.
Okay. Well, let's take one breath. Yeah, I'm always struck, and that's why I needed to take a breath just to collect myself. I'm always struck by when somebody feels the calling of breath work. It really is like such a pulling, like such this sort of obsession. I relate to that in my own story. We're not here to talk about my history, but when it was time to get that next breathwork certification, it was this obsession, breathwork, this pull, as you call. And so, yeah, I'm curious about the podcast. You said you were listening to podcasts and painting, and yeah, is there anything, like, do you remember what kind of podcast you were listening to at that time?
There was a guy called Michael Biker. He's a Dutch guy. So I was listening to him, and I actually did a little bit of training with him as well, more in pranayama techniques. But that concept of conscious connected breath was new to me. I think there was a school called Pause Breathwork, maybe. She had a podcast, but conscious connected breathwork was new to me. It's something that I hadn't experienced before. So during that time, I did some online sessions with different schools and tried conscious connected breathwork for the first time. And yeah, it was quite an experience. I had trained with like a Daoist master years ago in Chinese and Eastern medicine. And I had done some breathwork practice there, but it was very, very different to conscious connected breath. Yeah. And I think I was ready for conscious connected breath. I was ready for just taking that step. The breathwork that I had done in the past had introduced me to my breath and introduced me to that connection with my body at a time where I was completely disconnected from my body. So stepping into conscious connected breathwork and my work with my learning from OBI, it deepened that connection with my breath, but it also taught me how to use my breath.
Yeah, so it taught you how to use your breath. Yeah. I would just love to hear more about that, about your journey, whatever you're willing to share. So it sounds like pranayama and some of the other techniques that you connected with. I mean, at some point we're going to come back and I'm going to ask you all kinds of questions about your training with the Daoist master, because that fascinates me. So you had some breath practices with the Daoist master. You did some pranayama training. You were listening to podcasts, exploring, different kind of breathing techniques. You found conscious connected breath. You tried it with different schools. It pulled to you. You connected strongly with us, decided to say yes to One Breath, and then boom, you really dove into your journey. And diving into your journey meant learning how to use or learning how to work with your breath. So yeah, what do you want to say about any of that?
Yeah, so it was the introspective breath work with OBI that really, when I talk about using my breath, introspective breath work allowed me to do that more. And I think, yeah, I said I was ready before, and I suppose the work that I had done in the past allowed me to have that connection with my body. But I hadn't integrated a lot of things. So while the breathwork techniques in the past had really made me confront myself, my body, like put a mirror right up close to me and just made me look at everything, which was hugely beneficial and changed my life at the time. But coming to the introspective breathwork deepened that and made me realize that everything that had happened before, my experiences, my life up to this point, that now I had a tool, a way to journey into all of that and integrate and clear and move and just work with all of that. So it's been a really immense tool for me, like, yeah, it's changed how I live. It's changed me as a therapist and how I work with clients. Yeah, it's been huge.
Yeah, so you highlighted something, you said something that that I want to highlight. You know, you spoke to how you were able to, through other practices, other breath practices, and you were able to you were confronted with yourself, right? Like you were confronted in these pieces of your life and your experiences. And I'm going to go so far as to say, like, emotions, they're like right here. Okay, I can see them, I can feel them. And that's great because now they're maybe not in my unconscious anymore. Maybe I'm not numb, you know, I'm more self-aware. But what do I do with it? So it's like walking around with all of this like extra luggage or extra baggage, if you will, and knowing it, that's one piece. And then you're speaking to the deeper piece of, okay, it's here. And now how do I, instead of carrying it around like something maybe heavy, I learn how to, you said, I'm going back to before, learn how to work with it, right? Like, I learn how to shift the energy. I learn how to, integrate is a word that you used as well.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So you also mentioned that that it's changed the way that you work with people. It's changed the way that you work with people. So you're a massage therapist, a reflexologist. What are you? You are offering breath work. You are doing breath work, but what else? Like, what else are you doing in your life? If you just talk a little bit more about what your work is now and maybe how the way you work with people has shifted.
So yeah, breath has come in more and more into my massage and reflexology work. I'm also facilitating workshops at the moment, in-person workshops, working with groups. So through breath, but I'm also very interested in natural cycles. So cyclical living, going through the seasons. I'm doing a series of workshops at the moment where I've just done a spring workshop. We're doing a summer workshop at the end of this month. And it's that group work, which is, it's really beautiful to witness people in the group getting so much from it. And a lot of the time with these groups, it's people's first time experiencing their breath or breath work. And the feedback has been really, really good, you know. One person is is coming to mind. And it's yeah, introspective breathwork isn't forced, you know, it's gently allowing. Because this person came to me before the workshop and she just said, look, I can feel from here to maybe here, but I don't want to, you know, I'm always afraid to go into my belly. It's just that part of me is just, you know, it's blocked. I don't go there. But gently working with the breath with her. After the class, things had shifted. You know, it wasn't a dramatic change, but things had shifted. She didn't have that fear anymore. And she came to the next workshop. And she said that between the first and second workshop, things had changed for her. She was able to breathe a little bit deeper. She didn't have that fear. She was connecting a little bit more deeper in her body. So yeah, working. And I think the breath is so powerful in that way, because you give somebody their own, it's empowering. You're giving somebody their own tool to work with, their breath and their body.
Yeah, speaking to that personal empowerment piece, and that piece of like, it's something that somebody can connect with in a workshop or in a one-to-one, and then they're not dependent upon us. They're not dependent upon the facilitator to keep, you know, like having to come back and pay a bunch of money. It's something that they can, if they're willing to, work with on their own outside and in between. And even if we don't work with our breath, when we have just an experience of something opening and shifting, you know, you spoke about that disconnection that this person had with their belly, and you know, you said, you know, she could feel like up to here, right? But the lower than that, and particularly the belly, was like the no-go zone. You know, sometimes people, you know, I just want to share this with our viewers, like sometimes people, or oftentimes people think that they want, you know, major shift, major change, like right now, right away. And when we just really blow something open right away, that can be, I imagine you connect with this, Sarah, that can be sometimes overwhelming to the nervous system. And just that little bit, right? You say is like just this little bit of opening sometimes is, I mean, can really be the best way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it changed her relationship with her body. And I can completely relate to that, because there was a time when I was just completely disconnected from my body. I listened to my head, and I think I thought that's who I was, just my head. And my head wasn't, you know, it wasn't the kindest or the nicest place to sit in either. So it was that I didn't realize that I was just completely disconnected from my body. I just thought, my head, you know, I don't like what I'm saying. I don't like this. So I'm just going to avoid or just try to get away from myself as much as possible. But yeah.
Yeah, that monkey mind, I've, you know,
Yeah.
we've heard a lot of, that's something I'm familiar with hearing, that monkey mind. Yeah. And, you know, just, I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying, Sarah, is we don't necessarily realize that we're disconnected from the body, but that's one way of knowing, is just how much time are we spending in our head? Right? Like, how much time are we spending in our head, and what are all of these messages that are going through the head, and where are they coming from, and why are we listening to them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Different from the body.
Absolutely. And it's difficult sometimes to realize that there's another way of being, or there's another way of interacting with the world, or, you know, that the body speaks as well. It could be, you know, more subtle or more quietly, but it's taking away that, or just bringing the head into balance with the heart and the belly, you know, those aligning rather than the head being the dominant. So yeah, that's a big part of my practice at the moment, and it's what I try to guide people in as well, just aligning the head, the heart, and the belly.
Yeah, and so there's some other aspects that you mentioned as well, and one is art and creativity, and then another is, you know, the natural cycles and the cyclical living, and that you bring that into your workshops. And so, yeah, I'm curious if you want to speak to either or both of those pieces, either the creativity piece or the cyclical living and the importance of that, wherever you want to go.
Yeah, so the creativity piece, when I went to art school when I was 18, I always wanted to be an artist. I always drew and painted, and yeah, so I went, and at that time it was too much. I really enjoyed the creative part, but it was just, yeah, too much for me at that time. I did 2 years, I left, and then I was drawn to bodywork. So trained as a massage therapist. But it was interesting because when I came back to my creativity in a big way through breath work, particularly in that first year with OBI, I found myself breathing and then noticing that what was coming up inside me were images. So it was like my body was speaking in images. So I would journal and draw these images that were coming up. And it was really speaking to me. It was, these images made sense. You know, they spoke about sensations that I was feeling, thoughts, memories, emotions. I could just, yeah, put them into an image, and it was very clear to me. So yeah, that's something that I really got out of breathwork. And the cyclical living, again, back in the Chinese medicine school that I was training in, the body as nature, as a microcosm of nature, was a big part of my learning, and seeing the body as that microcosm of nature. So journeying through the body, and that cyclical part of medicine, the organs related to different seasons, and living in a cyclical way. So we're not the same every day of the month, especially as females with the menstrual cycle. Yeah, there are cycles within cycles, and just learning how to support myself through cycles, through the seasons of the year, learning how to nourish myself differently as the year went on, different practices in spring, in summer. It's really become, yeah, a big support system for me. And yeah, that's what I try to bring to my workshops as well. So we'll practice breath work, but I'll also talk about, the supportive practices for particular seasons and times of the year.
So you have a workshop coming up soon?
Yes, it's the 27th of May. That's in Clonakilty in Ireland. It's in a beautiful yoga center. So we have space for around 8 or 10 people. Keep the groups small. It's myself and another holistic therapist that I work with. We facilitate these workshops.
And how can somebody, if they are on or around Clonakilty, find you to register for one of these workshops?
So breathcycles.com is my website. Yeah, or I'm on Instagram, Sarah_breathcycles. Either of those. Yeah.
And you are also working with people in person, one-to-ones, and you are working online. You have an online group offering as well. Would you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So group breathwork every Tuesday, 7 to 8 p.m. Irish time. Online through Zoom. So different themes every week. And I weave in that nature themes, seasonal themes, and conscious connected breathwork.
So what would be one seasonal tip that you might be available to share with all of us now?
So we are moving into summer, that more expansive yang masculine part of the year. Yeah, I would say to people, see what you're drawn to. At the moment, I'm drawn to like deeper breathwork practices and swimming in the sea. It's like that. And the sea is cold here at the moment. But I feel like being outward more, we're coming from that sleepy dream time of winter, slowly emerging in spring, and now it's energy is coming up and outwards. So being out in nature, noticing what's happening in nature and seeing if that's reflected in you and how you're feeling at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to ask you, is there one piece of wisdom that you would seek to impart upon our listeners today as well?
Just how simple breathwork is, but how deeply profound it is. It's I say it's simple because everybody breathes, everybody has breath, access to their own breath. So it's that very simple tool that everybody has themselves, but it's profound because of what it can open up, what it can integrate, what it can what it can do. So follow that. If anybody has that that small little voice saying do breath work, just do it, and things happen from there.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's amazing how much can happen from there. Yeah, so that just brings me to, if you were to connect with yourself at that time in 2020, when you first started feeling that call to breath work, like first started like getting that itch and started listening to podcasts and started Googling and exploring schools, if you were to connect with yourself then and yourself now, what is the first thing that comes to you as like one piece of growth through that process?
As you said, that capacity for life just popped up. I really feel that with my breath. It's the deeper I go with my breath, the more life I am welcoming. I don't shut myself off from things as much. I don't tense to life anymore. I open to life and welcome it. And I think that's, because of breathwork.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful image. I just saw you like a flower blossoming and like opening to receive more life, more connection, more love, more.
Yeah, whatever comes. Yeah.
Okay, Sarah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to connect with me today and share yourself with our listeners. And thank you for those of you who have tuned in and chosen to listen. And just as a reminder, you can find Sarah everywhere at Breath Cycles, breathcycles.com, Breath Cycles Instagram, Breath Cycles Facebook now too. So, and you can find us at onebreathinstitute.com, and you can go on a journey of becoming a facilitator with us, just as Sarah has. You can join us for breathwork sessions. You can join Sarah for breathwork sessions. So let's take one more breath together. And we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.